Hey, we talk a lot of soccer here. Christian Pulisic, he's done something no American has done over there. Over there this year is he plays for AC Milan. He scores 5 goals in straight games for AC Milan. No American's ever done that.
That's awesome.
5 goals in 5 games. I mean, he has grown. That's the coolest thing. We've been doing this podcast almost 2 years. And we talked about the young 18-year-old who was then a 20-year-old, and he looked scared and terrified playing for the U.S. national team, who got better and better, and he went to Chelsea, and then he went to Germany. Now he signed in AC Milan. That's a man. To see him grow from an 18-year-old that I first followed and said, well, yeah, he's a gangly kid who can run, and I see him grow into a man and he scored 5 goals in 5 games at that level. Wow. That's pretty impressive. Strange story in auto racing. Well, I don't know that we know the end of this completely. Michael Andretti has sold majority control in his IndyCar team to one of his co-owners. It's a really weird story. Andretti has run a 3-race, 3-car team. He's had some marginal success recently. Prior to that, had great success. He, of course, was a great driver, and Mario Andretti, his father. Michael's been embroiled trying to get a charter to be one of the members, to be the 11th team in Formula One, has run into all types of political problems with the European ownership that doesn't want him there. They don't want to split the TV revenue, et cetera, though he would be a great poster boy for F1 coming back here. He sold it. He sold the majority control. The rumor is he's furious at Roger Penske, the legendary owner who Penske owns the entire IndyCar racing business. Penske owns the 500. Penske owns its IndyCar team and its NASCAR team. He just does not think that Roger Penske has done a good enough job marketing the sport. He's upset that outside of the Indy 500, the rest of the IndyCar schedule is kind of off the radar. It's kind of meaningless.
Yeah.
And he's upset all of a sudden that Formula One, with all of its monies, come in and planted a flag here in the United States and gotten record TV ratings. And more people are paying attention to F1 and Max Verstappen and the angry Team Red Bull storylines, and they're paying attention. He's correct.
Yes.
I mean, I've covered IndyCar racing since Fido was a pup. I grew up in IndyCar racing. I know all about it. It doesn't have the impact. It's not on the people's radar. And what they need to do is they need to rework the schedule. And they only run, I want to say 12 to 13 races a year. It's not like NASCAR that runs 36 or F1 that runs, I think F1's running 32. What they need to do is fix their calendar and make the marquee events, make it the first Sunday of every month there's an IndyCar race. Don't go 6 weeks on the schedule without a race and then run 2 races in one weekend in Milwaukee. That's weird. So maybe his critique of Penske has got some validity to it from a marketing perspective. They got to change the image of IndyCar racing aside from the month of May. So there's a lot of work to be done, but he's walked away. I was really surprised at that. And then there's the last one, the owner of the Chargers.
Your best friend.
Dean Spanos. About a year and a half ago, big story broke. His sister, Dia, who owned 24% of the franchise, family ownership, owns most all the stock. She went public and said, this man has ruined the product. This man has ruined the business. This man has got debt everywhere. This man left San Diego. This man had to take out all these loans to pay the beginning of the territorial fee to move to Los Angeles. This man had to borrow money to meet his bills. This guy's borrowing from one bank to pay off another bank loan, saying that Dean Spanos needs to be removed. Well, they fought and they fought and they fought. She's given up the fight, but she sold 27% of her stock in the franchise and the Spanos Foundation to the owner of the Detroit Pistons, Tom Gores. And Gores has become the lead minority owner. Dean Spanos, first family of football, will continue to make all the football decisions about a franchise that's not had a hell of a lot of success. But Dia Spanos has walked out. And I've tried to configure, and I was never good in new math because I cut math class that day in college and went drinking uptown that day too. I don't know what the value is, but it's got to be, if the franchise is valued $5.6 billion, you do the math. Get your cell phone out. What is 27% of $6.5 billion? That's what she got.
Oh, that's about, 1.5 billion.
It's probably more than that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyhow, that's the story that broke. Hasn't gotten a lot of publicity because when the lawsuit story broke, she filed, I think, 3 different pieces of litigation, and they were never going to settle it, and the league was never going to force the First Family Football to sell the franchise. But anyhow, she has sold it and made significant profits.
Well, good. Yeah, good for her if she
Good
deserves
for her,
it.
I guess.
Yeah. First of all, the Spanos family is just so weird. Like there's Dean and Dia, and they're spelled the same with the exception that Dean has an N on the end,
Right.
and Dia is just DEA. What's going on?
And then there's another brother, Michael, and there's a 4th member that lives in Stockton, and they own, I want to say now, they must own 76 maybe percent of the stock. And now Tom Gores has bought Dia's ownership of it. And there's one family here in San Diego that still owns the team, have owned it since the days of the old AFL Baron Hilton San Diego Chargers.
Yeah.
George,
I remember this guy. Yeah.
Great gentleman. He's passed on. His family still owns it. So that's where we are with the Chargers. So you want to talk about Pulisic, Andretti?
No, I want to talk about the IndyCar Andretti thing because, like, when I was a kid, the Indy 500 was everything, right?
Sure.
And this is before, for me, and NASCAR was big. Frankly, back when I was a kid and even today, I don't really care about the rest of the IndyCar circuit. I just care about the Indy 500.
Month of May.
And all the pageantry. We talk about that. We enjoy all that. So it makes me wonder, is like, why is there an IndyCar league and an F1 in Europe? I mean, they're very similar kind of cars. Why can't they just standardize on and make all of IndyCar F1?
Well, F1 is all road racing. F1 is much different technology, much more expensive, much more powerful cars. IndyCar is oval and road. The oval is obviously where the speed and the excitement is, but it's maybe it's cyclical, but IndyCar's gone through a really bad time in terms of losing its notoriety and its specialness aside from the old Brickyard in the month of May. NASCAR was a good old boy thing. It was a regional franchise. It grew and it became a national thing thanks to TV. And of course, they had personalities, you know,
Right.
the Man in Black, Dale Earnhardt, and all those guys, and the Alabama Gang, and Bobby Allison. Now, NASCAR's TV ratings have kind of plunged, even though it's a national sport. We don't have a NASCAR event on the West Coast anymore in Southern California, where all the population and the TV viewers, we don't have a race because the track is being downsized in Fontana. There's been wild talk about doing a street race, but I don't know the street race is exciting anybody. So now NASCAR's TV ratings have dipped, and here comes all things Europe and all things F1 and all things Max Verstappen and Sir Lewis Hamilton, and they're coming here. They're going to have 5 F1 races here in North America, I think, within 2 years. So suddenly F1 has become the social thing. And of course, F1 is global. F1's in Brazil. F1 is everywhere in Europe. I mean, it's fascinating. You know, F1's in Japan. So
my wife watches F1 because she watched that Netflix series and got hooked on it she and my son are always talking F1. And I'm like, I have my hands full keeping track of everything else. But
we've noticed that on this podcast. Yes.
So it is, the personalities drive the sport. You're right. And like, I can't even name an IndyCar guy because it's usually those dudes from Brazil. There's that, Pato Award from Mexico. But I'm trying to think of some of the other names. They're not off the tip of my tongue.
It's just gone through a cycle where we've got some great foreign guys who've come here and have done very, very well. Alex Palou is the latest. Oh, yeah. He won the points championship this year. But it's a bad cycle in IndyCar racing. But to have Andretti walk away from it, he's not going to be in day-to-day control of his team. He's going to be a minority holder. So I tend to think maybe some of the stuff he's saying about the lack of marketing and creative juice, they need to do something to put IndyCar back on the calendar. And I mean, I follow it because I write about it on my website a lot. But you go 6 weeks without an IndyCar race, out of sight, out of mind.
Totally.
Instead of first Sunday every month in IndyCar, make it work on the schedule.
Yeah.
Hey, you're an auto racing fan, soccer fan, jump on board. Fans Forum box is about to be opened. Hey, this podcast is brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers.